Hey guys, I just wanted to shoot a real quick video talking about my summer EDC pocket kit that I've been carrying, and I just want to talk a little bit about the philosophy behind carrying a smaller fixed blade in the pocket or just in general, and what it means for me and what I expect to get out of such a knife. Real quick, just a rundown. This is a knife ship free little pocket sheath. Just have a Ranger band with a small AAA flashlight. This is a Light My Fire ferro rod just shoved down in there. I like to keep quite a large length of paracord on there, enough to make a bow drill bow if I need to. And the knife, so we'll go ahead and jump right into it. This knife is a Bark River. This knife is the Mini Bushcrafter, the little brother to the ultralight Bushcrafter, and I will roll that knife in a moment, just for comparison's sake. The reason I chose this knife, for the previous couple of summers when it gets really humid here in the south, I will change my method of carry. I will go, normally I'll carry an ultralight Bushcrafter or a gunny, sometimes even an Aurora during the winter when I do plan on being out and it's cold, and there's always the chance that in those types of situations when there's a foot of snow on the ground or more, that you could get caught out in a situation, your car break down, and you have to spend the night out. During the summer, not as big of a deal. I've been on a bunch of camping trips, minimalist camping trips in the summer, and they're more uncomfortable than anything because of the heat. And there's not really much that you can do as long as you have shade and a water source to combat that. During the fall, that's most people's favorite time to camp. I know it's mine. But what I'm looking to get out of a knife for my everyday carry bushcraft knife during the summer is I need something that's small but able. So this knife, I'm not really trying to sacrifice anything. More, I'm just trying to get to the very bare minimum. This knife, obviously, I'm not going to be able to create large shelters, lean-tos, wickiups, whatever. But I will be able to, do friction fires, get fires going. Baton, small, obviously small things to get dry wood out of the middle. I can also fell small saplings in the event of I had to make a shelter of some sort. And then more primitive skills like cordage making, harvesting of wild edibles and medicinals, and even, when it's that time of the year, mushroom hunting. I just like to have a smaller little knife that I can go out and collect things with. That's really the purpose behind this knife. And I carried a Little Creek for quite a while. And really the only reason I changed and switched was because I just like this profile a little better, and I like the grind. And I've been used to carrying the ultralight Bushcrafter for so long that it just seemed kind of logical. I'll roll in my ultralight Bushcrafter here, and this, I'd say only during the hottest and most humid months, and even weeks. If there's a cooler week, I'll go back to carrying this. This is mainly when all I'm wearing are shorts and a t-shirt. And even at that, I might be wearing lighter shorts or a lighter t-shirt, when it's really, really hot. This knife isn't much smaller, but an inch here and there in a knife design is quite a bit. But at the same time, I still have a very usable blade length, and even though I have large hands, I can get a almost 4-finger grip on this knife. If you had medium-sized hands, I think that you'd be able to get a full grip. While this knife is, I'm not going to say much more capable, it's definitely much more comfortable for prolonged use. Be it carving task or any of the tasks that I named, but specifically carving, because that's, at the end of the day, that's really what you're doing with your knife. You're, in my opinion, a bushcraft knife. You're carving things, you're crafting things from the bush. And while this knife will do it, and it does it, pretty good job, it's not nowhere near the most comfortable knife. It is a lot. You'll get a lot more hot spots and hand fatigue just because of the size. But when you are doing those finer, more primitive skills of cordage making, harvesting, collecting, blah, 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 it does absolutely fine. Striking a ferro rod, fantastic job at that. And yeah, it's just kind of nice to have a little fixed blade on you, because if I needed a baton, my Swiss Army knife will not be able to do that. And while, yeah, I do carry a Swiss Army knife 95% of the time, and it will do 95% of the task, there's that 5% that you really need a stronger fixed blade knife for. I do not like cleaning animals or processing fish with a folding knife. I've had too many accidents. I've known too many people that have had accidents with folding knives. Even like buck 110s that have a lock back. Not necessarily this knife, but you know, when you're deer hunting in the fall and the winter, it gets cold and your hands are numb and you can't feel anything and you end up closing it on accident. I've seen it happen. It's happened to my father. And yeah, so when I'm cleaning an animal, I much prefer to have a fixed blade knife, and a smaller one at that. You know, I can go in with this grip here, and I have much more control of where my body's at because it's at the tip of my finger. That's one thing that I was taught by a lot of veteran hunters around here. If you have a smaller knife, you have better control of it. Yeah, I've made do, and I've dressed out a deer with a Bravo 1. You know, I didn't need a hatchet to split the breastbone. I just batoned through it. But, you know, at the end of the day, a knife like this for me really is just an EDC companion that if I'm going out on a walk or I decide to pull off the road and go for, oh, I see a nice hole, I'm going to go fly fish down there, I know I have a fixed blade on me. With that being said, you know, I do live in the remote part of the county and the state in general, and there are a lot of really kind of treacherous mountain roads. So I do always carry a more of a, not like a 72-hour kit, but like a more of a bushcraft minded kit that does have a hatchet in it, a saw, larger wood processing tools, and you know, most of the time I do throw my Bravo 1 in there just to have it, or a Mora Garbird. So I'm not always without a knife. I'm usually a few hundred yards to a mile from somewhere else when I have this knife, and that's absolutely fine for me. You know, when I'm just walking the ridges around my house, this does fine. If I just want to sit down, pull out my wood burning stove and just make up, you know, a quick lunch or something, I can definitely get that going with that. Now this knife, it does run about $200, which I know is kind of expensive for a knife, for a lot of people. You know, a more budget option would be this right here. Now obviously this is a Mora and this is a classic. It's not a classic 1 or a classic 2. This is a 2.0, smaller than the 1 obviously, but relatively close to the same blade lengths, but it does have a little bit more handle, so I can get a full 4-finger grip on there, and I do honestly carry this knife a lot. In reality, being 100% honest, the functionality of both of these knives doesn't really differ for the purpose because they are so small. It's one thing to have a 4 or 5 inch knife and batoning it. The leverage that you're going to get by batoning out on the tip of that knife are much more likely to break the knife. And that's honestly how I see most people break Moras, is they're batoning at the very tip of like a 2 or a clipper or something, when if you had an Aurora, you probably wouldn't break it. But a knife like this, I've batoned the crap out of this knife. I carried it for a long time. I kind of got off of the Bark River and the custom knife kick there for a while and went straight to carrying more knives, and I have 4 or 5 of these, and I've beat the crap out of them and never broke one. I even got one from the factory that was defective, and the blade was outset like 1/8 of an inch, so I figured I'd probably break that one. It's fine, I've never broken it. Still works fine to this day. So if you need a smaller pocket bushcraft knife, you know, the Mora 2.0, and it's less than $20, and you can't beat it. Really, the only reason I see to carry, you know, a Bark River or an LT Wright or something like that that's smaller like this, is just because it's a nice thing to have. At the end of the day, both of these knives will do the same task equally well. And you know, I love Bark River, and I think they're a great company, but I'm not one to sugarcoat things. This knife cuts better in certain aspects. It's a much finer carving knife. The Scandi grinds that they put on Bark Rivers, in my opinion, coming from the factory, require quite a bit of work to get them to perform like a Scandinavian ground knife should. Their, you know, full height grinds are great because they're a little bit thinner, they slice better. Really, it just batons a little better because it hits that shoulder, but that's the same with this one. So that's just honestly how it is. And you know, if you just get one of these off the shelf, I'm sure they'll be fine for you, for most people, but you can tell a difference in the carving ability of these two knives, or at least I can. But after I've sharpened the crap out of this one for a couple years now, it's performing really, really well for me. So that's the Pocket EDC Summer Bushcraft Knife. So let me know below what you guys carry during the summer. How does that change for you? And I will be shooting a video because I had a couple people ask me and reach out to me about, like, well, what's the point of carrying a bushcraft knife every day? At least for where I live in an area where I can walk out my back door and be in the woods. I go almost every day outside, so I'm going to shoot a video, and it's not realistic because I don't do all these tasks every single day, but I'm going to walk you through the tasks that I expect a knife like that to hold up to. And I think I'm going to probably use my ultralight bushcrafter since that's the one I use most of the time, but that one might make a few appearances and see if anyone catches it, because they do kind of look the same. But thank you guys for watching, and I will see you on the next one.